Hello, BTMS students, and welcome back to another episode of our career interviews. If you are new, my colleagues and I are doing a virtual career fair where we will interview professionals who uphold the careers you guys will pursue post graduation. Today, we will be interviewing a medical researcher by the name of Loretta Hall. Welcome, Ms. Hall.
Thank you.
For the first question that I have for you is not really a question, it's just more of like your experience. Can you share with our audience what you do at the Research Institute of St. Joseph's right here in Patterson? And how is that connected with St. Joseph's Hospital, where many of our students or their families has been, at least for one thing or another? So like basically, like, what is your job?
I would love I would love to talk about I am so excited about my job. I am so happy to highlight my job. We actually oversee all the medications that you take. So if you think about Tylenol, aspirin, you think about the heart devices, medicines that we use to treat infections, even as recent as COVID. All those drugs or all those medications and devices, they have to be ran through clinical trials. And so my office, we oversee running those clinical trials in our local community amongst all of our patients. And so we get to invite patients to come in and volunteer part of the study based upon their diseases. And then we in turn take all that information, collect all that information, and we send it back to a global platform where all the hospitals, everything is analyzed and collected, and that's how we find out what works best in treating patients all throughout the world. And so it's very exciting. When I entered into the career, it was ground level entry. So the career has pretty much advanced itself. So now you do need a degree to get into it. But it is an awesome job. If you love puzzles, if you love murder mysteries, if you love digging and finding out who done it, this is the career for anyone who likes that type of exploration. And we never have a boring day. Every disease process is different. Every outcome is different. Every subject is different, how the medication is going to work with that person. And so every day you're going to learn something different.
Thank you for that. So it seems like your job is very important and fun at the same time.
It is.
This is not one of the questions that I was going to ask you, but what happens if something goes wrong with the patient when you test out like the drug on them?
Well, we want to know about the wrong things that happen too, because then we know that we're not supposed to do that, right? And so again, these are volunteers. If you think about a cancer patient, right, there is no known cure for cancer. However, we do have treatments. And so some treatments is not so much in search of a cure up front, but how do we make a patient's life better? Can we give a patient another birthday? Can we get a father to his daughter's wedding? Can we get a child to their first birthday? Those are all important things. And so we may not always find a cure, but we're always striving to make that patient better. We're always striving for better outcomes. And yes, sometimes things go wrong. We need to know that too, because again, each person, each patient is their own research subject. So because it worked well in one subject doesn't mean it's going to work well in every subject. Is that clear?
Thank you for that. You made me clear everything up that was going to ask. Okay. The next question that I have for you is, how did you arrive at your current career, and what did you study in school, and how did you get hired at St. Joseph's Medical Center?
I stumbled into my career. I actually started as a volunteer. I started at St. Joseph's when I was 17 years old. You cannot ask me how old I am now, but I'll let you calculate, but you cannot ask me. But I stumbled, and my mom made me volunteer at the hospital because I was sitting around. I went to school. I was a great student, but just like didn't know quite what I wanted to do. So she was like, okay, go volunteer at the hospital. And so in that, I went to school and I got an associate's degree in psychology because I'm a people's person. I like knowing about people and I like analyzing people. And so I thought that would be a good place to start. I advanced my career throughout St. Joseph's once I got hired permanently. As I was volunteering, I started applying for positions. I did get hired and got married, had children. It's, again, all along advancing my career. And you have to set yourself apart at work. You have to go against the grain. You have to be different. You don't want to walk into any place and be a clone. Like, Chelsea, I am loving your hair right now. Your hair is fire, right?
Thank you.
Jennifer, that the way you just outspoke to your teacher, said, oh, don't forget to record. Like, we want core thinkers on their feet. We don't want you coming in being a clone. So once you set yourself apart, the job finds you. And that's how I got my job. I actually had an investigator who came and asked me to apply for his position. Because if you're a bum at work, believe me, it's going to precede you before you walk into a room, especially at a company like St. Joseph's. It's a big place, but it's a small place, right? And so you want to make sure that your attitude, your conduct, your dress code, everything, that it represents who you want to be. I also, talk to young people all the time. Dress for the job you want, not for the job you have.
Ooh.
So you always want to present yourself better, right? That I know how to be when I enter a room.
Yes.
And so again, I'm confident to my job.
Like, to piggyback off of that, like, when people go to interviews for McDonald's, like, they'll dress down just because they're like, oh, it's McDonald's.
It's McDonald's.
Yeah, it's the way you're carrying yourself. It's your first time being,
you got it.
Yeah, vulnerable to a job, really. Like, you're trying to put it there. It's not
I interview candidates all the time. We look at you from head to toe if we don't even say it. We have summed you up by the way you walked in the room. And you fake it. If you're scared, don't show it. Don't you blink. And you just sit up and you straight and you own it because you're there and your resume got you into the room. So now stand in that. And you have to know that.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Before I move on to my own personal question, I'm going to ask Jennifer if she has anything she would like to ask you.
Hello, Ms. Hall.
Hi, Jennifer.
I have a few questions to ask you. What is the most important skill required to be successful in your current job?
In my current job, I would say the willingness to not know everything. I have to approach each case as if it's brand new. I can't assume anything. So don't ever, and don't enter the room as a know-it-all. You can have confidence, but not as a know-it-all. No one likes a know-it-all anyway, right? Confidence that you know what you know. But I know when I'm approaching a patient, I can't approach Jennifer and Anthony same attitude because you guys are different. And so that's how we review each case. Actually, I'm negotiating a contract right now for a new study, and it's a device for endoscopy. And so I can't treat this endoscopy grant or opportunity the same way I would a heart grant because they're two different things. And so that gives you success because you're not assuming anything.
Wait, so what do you mean by that? Is like, for example, the knowledge that you get from the previous case you did, you can't use that for the next one?
You shouldn't, because I have that knowledge already. So if I go in and think that I know everything, then I don't learn anything new. So I should enter endoscopy project because it's a different organ than a heart. And so if I charge the doctors the same amount I charge for endoscopy that I would for a heart study, then I'm going to really cheat my thing.
Yeah, like combine.
Yeah, they're two different functions, right? Because we can live on dialysis, endoscopy. We can live on medication, but you can't live without your heart. And we don't have hearts to spare.
Right.
But what we would charge you for a heart study is way different than what we would charge you for an endoscopy study. Because the risks are greater. They're greater risk.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Everything is important, right? But the heart.
And here, we don't have replacements for that.
Right. The next question that I have for you is, so it says, I understand that you are a long-time member on the advisory board for our school. What do you think is one of the things high school students need before graduating?
Oh my goodness, so much. Now that I'm out of high school, I think the whole high school curriculum needs to be revised. But that's for another conversation, for another audience. But I think you need things like this. I think you need other opportunities. I think everyone should not be projected towards college. There are other things that you can be great at and be successful at and be happy. So everyone is not suitable for college, nor do they want to go to college. I think there are a whole array of careers that undergirds the healthcare system that many of you guys don't have ability to understand. All you hear about is doctors and nurses. There's a whole lot of departments in the hospital that keeps the hospital functioning outside of doctors and nurses.
Thank you for that. So the next question that I have for you is, what is the most exciting project you have worked on in your current job?
The most exciting, I would say, was when I first started as a clinical research assistant. We are clinical research assistants. That's the actual name of our profession. I am now the research manager, but in my days of being a clinical research assistant, I worked on a pediatric study for rare tumors in infants. And why does an infant have a tumor? We don't know. But this infant was born with a tumor, and it was a very bad prognosis for this baby. This baby pretty much had a life expectancy of months to live. And the mom was very brave, and she gave her child the opportunity to be out of a clinical research study that treated this tumor. Now, this tumor had 4 treatment arms. 2 of them was very vigorous. Actually, all 4 of them was very vigorous, but 2 of them proved to be deadly. And so the study that our patient was on was the deadly arm. And because of the work that we did, I mean, it was intense, and it was everyday reporting. It was everyday checking on this baby, seeing how this baby was doing. And because we were so on top of it, we were able to early understand that 2 of the arms was causing our babies to die sooner than the other 2 arms. And so because of the work that we put into it, the 2 dangerous arms closed, and we were able to transfer our baby to the safer arm of the study and gave our baby, I believe, 2 or 3 more birthdays after that. And so to me, that was the most rewarding, because it let me know every piece of paper that I went and collected and sent on that baby made a difference, not only to that baby, but to every baby being treated for that type of tumor in the future.
Wait, so did he make it, or she?
He did.
Oh, okay.
He didn't. He lived. Well, he was not supposed to live, to 3 months, and he lived to be 3 years old.
So he died?
Well, he was only supposed to live to be three months.
No, yeah, I understand.
Right. In the grander scheme, his parents got 3 years instead of 3 months.
Right.
Oh. Yeah. Yep.
So before I ask my next question again, Jennifer, do you have anything that you would like to ask?
Okay. Based on where you are now in your career, what advice would you have given to your high school senior self, or what advice can you give to anyone watching who wants to venture into this career?
Oh my goodness. Say this, or do I just say it?
Just say it.
Just say it. Ms. Martine, can I just say it? Because we're Black and brown doesn't mean that we don't deserve to be there. Do not let your Black and brownness intimidate you, because you are still the smartest person in the room. We get there on merit. They get there on favors. Are we all nodding? First, do I need to repeat that? Can I say that another way for you?
That was just deep. That's why
do not let your complexion, your hair texture, stop you from applying for that position. Because when the rubber meets the road, you get there because you know what you know, and they got there because they knew someone.
It's crazy. That's
Is
like
that okay? Was that okay? But that I said that way, Ms. Martine? Okay. You got it, Jennifer? Do you understand what I just said to you? Anthony? Do you understand what I just said to you? Okay.
Thank you for that.
I walked in, and I was the only one times I was the only one in the room, and now I'm leading the room.
Ooh.
Every time I went to ask for help, they told me to help me. They didn't know the answer. So I built my own community. I started a hospital, and I learned what I know based upon me going after it. And I was a little perturbed. I'm not going to say that I wasn't, but now in hindsight, they didn't know. They weren't lying to me. They weren't lying. Because now, fast forward, I manage all of them. I direct all of them. Because I made myself knowledgeable, and I went after it.
Right.
And I didn't take them not knowing it. Or whether, I mean, at that time, I thought they just didn't want to tell me. I thought they were being some kind of way, weren't being some kind of way. So don't get offended, because all the time we think they're not telling us because they don't know. They don't know. They didn't have to know. They applied for. They didn't apply for the job. They didn't know. They got the job based upon this, not based upon this. And I need you to really understand that. Had I known that, I would have been here sooner. But because I was the only one in the room, I paused and I hesitated, but I don't hesitate anymore.
I think in a generation like this, though, I feel like we grind more now, knowing what we know or going through what anyone has had to go through with any racial altercation.
Yeah, you can grind. You can grind. Grinding is wonderful. But in the boardroom, grinding doesn't matter. They put who they want in the position no matter what. So your grind doesn't matter.
What does grind mean? What do you mean by
work
that?
Make it happen. Work hard, make it happen.
Yeah,
work hard, make it happen.
Going at it.
I actually when I got promoted to manager of the research department, someone actually went around me and wanted my resume to make sure I qualified for the job. Now, mind you, my director, no experience, didn't ask for her resume. But my resume was called for. And it's not my director's fault. It was the system's fault.
Right.
But of course, by that time, I had built myself up to be who I am. And they ran into someone who knew me long term and, got shot down. And of course, the person told me they claimed for your resume. My resume was on point. They could have it. They could ask me for it.
Right.
And save the step. And that's something else too. If you get an opportunity, make sure your resume can hold you there. Because if you get favor, you don't want to ride on favor, because if your person who brought you there leaves, what do you have?
Right.
So if you get the opportunity to be a manager or a director, don't just sit there. Go back to school and make sure you have everything that qualifies you to be there, because you got a favor. So I have nothing wrong with someone doing a favor.
Just make sure you can handle your own.
Hold your own weight if your favorite person leaves.
Right. Speaking of you directing or in charge now, what is something that you look for in candidates that you hire?
I look for persons that have resumes that have gone through the trenches. I want to see that you started and you increased. I don't care if you started at McDonald's and and you went to Target, or you did an office job for a church office. I want to see you migrating and your skill set improving, because that means I can give you a chart and walk away, and you're going to make it happen. Because I don't have a kind of job where I can sit and babysit what you're reporting. Because once you report it, it's out there.
So you're looking for someone that, instead of never making a mistake. I don't want to say making a mistake because we don't need no mistakes in your field.
Right.
But
Right.
instead of perfecting everything or having a perfected life, you're looking for someone who wants challenges, I guess.
Yeah, who's not afraid of a challenge, who sees challenges as opportunities. And the beauty of my world, like you said, we can't afford to make a mistake because you can't take chemotherapy back,
Yeah.
right? And you do a surgery, you did surgery on the wrong patient, you can't take that back.
Wait, so you do surgeries or do you just give out vaccines? Like, wait, what?
Well, we do devices. So if somebody needs a heart valve, we have doctors who will put the heart valve in it, but we have to give them the information saying this patient meets the criteria to get this heart valve. So we can't make an error on making sure that Anthony qualifies for this heart valve. Because if we do it wrong, we blew it.
No turning back, yeah.
So we have double checks. You have to be able to work in a team. There is no I in research. The whole team comes together and we talk about a patient as a group. There's no hero of the story. One of the things about St. Joe's, there are no heroes.
Right.
If you come to our cafeteria,
or I came up with this, or
if you come to our cafeteria, you're going to see the housekeeper sitting with, because that's how it has to be.
Right.
So the housekeeper doesn't clean the room properly. We actually had a study where we were actually putting smallpox, something that you don't even hear of anymore. We were actually injecting smallpox into cancer, liver cancer, as a potential treatment. It wasn't successful, but at least we know it's not successful, right? But that room had to be cleaned on such a level that you could not just think the housekeeper as insignificant, because how she cleaned that room, let's decided whether we have COVID or smallpox right now.
Every
we can't let smallpox out of this room.
Incorporated with another rule. Everybody works together.
Exactly. So that it's a team approach. Maintenance had to come in and make sure the vessel was there to hold, the bin was there to hold the waste. So it's a whole lot of pieces that have to be put together to make a study successful. The room that the patient was in, we couldn't put another patient in that room for 24 hours because it had smallpox, right? The toilet, no one else could use the same toilet that the patient used. Why? Because it may have had smallpox in it. When she went home, we had to make sure the patient had to have their own bathroom and had the double, right, at home. So these are things you have to call. Hey, don't forget, you're double flushing. You tell the family, forget, double flushing after the patient uses the bathroom. And so it's a whole lot of little pieces that go into when the nurse has to call and follow up with the patient's family. So if you don't like working with people, this is probably not the career for you. You don't like people. You might. It's other things. We have labs and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully we're going to bring some of those people to you at a later time. So there are jobs for people who like working in isolation, but this is not a job to work in isolation.
Another question that I have. This is not part of the questions that I listed either.
Ask away.
This career sounds way more interesting than I was expecting. That's why
I'm telling you, it's I will not steer you wrong. I never regret getting up going to work. You have that you don't mind.
You can't just be in a job for the money or be in a job because of the education you have. Like, you literally have to enjoy it, especially if that's a career that you plan on having for the rest of your life. Like, that's how people get stressed out. Like, there's a lot of people that are stressing because of their job, and it's because
they hate it.
Yeah.
But ask your question.
The other question was, like, you guys like write everything down on like paper just in case there was ever like a computer glitch or something?
Well, so yes and yes. We actually, in research world, we create what is called a shadow chart. So everything that happens that is standard of care for the patient happens in the regular patient chart. And so in the research world, we create our own chart, and it's in paper, because when you're on a research study, Chelsea, the pharmaceutical is not allowed to know your name. Did you guys see the movie from Oprah, Henrietta Lacks? Henrietta Lacks? You got to watch it. If you like this career, you got to watch it. So it's called HLA. And that's one of the building blocks that a lot of medications are built on. A lot of treatments is built on Henrietta Lacks. And it was called HLA because her specimen had initials and not her name. But they were able to backtrack and find out it was her. So I know it's Chelsea. And so I know when I see specimen CS, whatever number, I know it's you. But the pharmaceutical company is not allowed to know that it's you. And so when we show the pharmaceutical your data, all your information, it goes over as CS patient number 5992, not Chelsea Scott. And so what the pharmaceutical sees, as opposed to what we see, it has to be different. Does that make sense? So it's tedious work, but we have to protect your identity. We have to make sure that you're not ostracized because you maybe have a disease, like especially when you think about an HIV patient, you know, it's a stigma associated with having HIV. So we would never disclose, you know, your name and you're on an HIV study or HIV medication.
This is confidentiality, basically.
It's confidentiality, but it's more than confidentiality because you may not even care. You may be an advocate for HIV, right? But then the insurance company can create a bias in the system and say, you know, you have a pre-existing condition, so they don't want to cover you. It'll be hard to get life insurance because, you know, the insurance company has proof that you have HIV. Right. And so it's those types of things that we're really protecting you from.
Basically just looking out for you.
Yeah, right. And one thing about us, you know, that's part of our mission at St. Joe's is that we treat each of our patients with dignity. And so even the next person, unless they need to know you have HIV, they don't need to know that you have HIV.
I thank you for that information, but I don't think you understood my question. I was trying to say, like, no, I'm sorry. I was trying to say, like, if the computer glitched and all your information was on the computer, like, what do you have as like a backup plan? Like, that's what I was like.
That's the shadow chart. So that's in paper. So the shadow chart for research, it's in paper.
Wait, so that's what my name would be on in the case of the study?
Would not be on that. You mean the hospital as a whole or me as the research office?
No. I don't know. Let's just forget.
No, I want to answer your question. So you're worried about your medical record?
No. I'm worried about like your plan. Like if you had a plan, okay, I'm gonna figure this out and this out and this out to help this out, but the computer glitches or like internet go out or like something happens, how would you be able to get access to that plan that's on the computer? Like, do you get what I'm saying? I don't think I'm explaining it properly. That's why.
Are you asking about the hospital or are you asking about the research?
No, I'm asking about your work, your line, not
my work. See, my work is all paper.
Oh, so there's nothing on the computer?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we don't want that on the computer because we don't want to disclose that you're being in any type. We don't want it to be a part of a hospital glitch.
Okay.
And so when the monitors come in, they're looking at a physical paper chart.
Okay. So it's like if anything, so if it was anybody who wanted to say anything, it's like their word against basically like no evidence.
You won't know what they're talking about.
Right. Okay. So yeah, my question got answered. Okay. So the next question that I have for you is, knowing that you could be in any other town or any other state, what motivates you to keep giving back to this community?
Well, it is my community, born and raised. I married a guy from Kennedy High School, but I graduated from Eastside High School. My family all go to St. Joseph's. I remember being a little girl standing out in front of St. Joseph's, right by the pharmacy, if you guys know the pharmacy by St. Joe's. And we couldn't visit my mom in the hospital. My mom was slated to die. And at that time, again, not asking my age because you're not allowed to. If Anthony was here, I'd tell you. My mom was slated to die and we couldn't visit my mom in the hospital. And I remember my mom not dying, and she came home and she was healthy and she was happy, and she never really got sick like that again. And from that point on, I knew I wanted to work at St. Joseph's. That was a career goal. I didn't say this in the beginning, but my initial pick to go to college, I was going to be a nurse. Once I started working in the hospital, I realized I would not have been happy as a nurse. And so I changed careers and became, I went on the administration side. And I'm glad that I did that because I'm a much more happier administrator, and I can give so much more. I get an opportunity to help build policy I've been on the front line, so I seem like I have a two-sided view of the hospital world, and so I can actually help better on this side of the desk or this side of the patient.
Thank you for that. And before we close, I mean, we'll close after if anybody has nothing else to say. But don't tell me I just forgot my question. Oh, no, okay. No, I didn't. What question? I mean, what school did you go to?
I went to public school number 4, and I graduated from Eastside High School. I went to Passaic County Community College for my associate's degree. I went to St. Peter's for my bachelor's and my master's degree.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so does anybody have anything else to say?
I just wanted to ask Ms. Hall, so what did you study as your undergraduate degree?
I have a business degree, business administration.
What?
I don't know, my brain did like that. So I did the associate medical side because I was thinking I wanted to do something more, you know, and then once I got a taste of administration, I just flipped, you know, and I think that's, you know, one of the beauties of having a long educational career, that you make a better decision. Because I was really probably doing the healthcare bedside. It was more of an emotional response because of my childhood experience, but what I've loved it. And so I would say if you can delay making a decision, not going to school, but making a decision about a career, you can delay it a little bit just to kind of feel out, to get some feelers.
That's what our last successful interview, because the interview that we had planned for yesterday didn't go through, but the last person we successfully interviewed said the same thing. Like, she was basically like dipping her foot in like different careers.
Yeah.
And so she's our vice principal, and she went for, I think, social work, it was, or psychology or something like that, and now she's our principal. But she says she feels like all the schooling she did helped her into being the principal.
Absolutely. I think the psychology degree to me was probably my most valuable degree. I think everything else was a formality for me, because by the time I got them, I was already in the career. So they really were formalities, like I said, because you get in the door, make sure you can stay in the door. Right. But my associates paid for in cash from Passaic Community College was invaluable. Do not let anybody make you think small of your associate's degree from the community college, because it is very valuable. And not only in your pocket, but on your resume.
Right.
And I would also say, don't necessarily get impressed by, oh, I'll transfer my 60 credits over to a 4-year school. Watch that. Just be leery of that. Get your associate's degree. Get it on your resume. And then go to the next step. Because I had a young lady who had 60 credits, didn't have an associate's degree. And when she wanted to apply for the job, she got out-degreed. Because we don't, in the healthcare realm, we don't see credits.
Or who was the finest school.
Right. So just be careful. I mean, and it's all, I know it's all career dependent, but in the healthcare world, your degree is going to have more value than credits.
So in closing, Jennifer?
Thank you for sharing your journey and experience.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Hall. I know this will be very beneficial to anyone watching. And to our BTMS students, see you on the next episode.